Allow me to sum up 2023 so far. Everything I'm supposed to be making brand new unexpected things. Hello! Feels like so long since I did a crafterslog video, but you know what? Given how slow I am to actually craft and or log anything, that might have worked out fine. Since my last update, I've got married, I've been to Eurovision, and I've had my last ever birthday where I can still say I'm in my 30s and therefore tenuously connected to the youth. Honestly, it's been kind of exhausting and pretty much at my personal limit of how much stuff I can do in a relatively short space of time. But you'll be happy to know it hasn't majorly impacted my crafting. If you're new here today, hello! My name is Michelle and I love to do all of the crafts, but especially the stitchy ones. On this channel you'll find cross-stitch, yarn crafts and the odd bit of sewing in the form of project vlogs, tutorials and, like today, just general updates on how it's going. There's plenty to see today, so let's start off as per usual with cross-stitch. So one thing I've managed to start and finish since the last crafterslog is this little abstract design here, which does still need fully finishing as something or other, but we all know how that goes. This was just a random design I doodled out myself and I really like it. There's something so satisfying to me about drawing these symmetrical patterns, and stitching them up is somehow even better. At first I was going to go with red and grey, but I had some second thoughts about it maybe looking a bit drab. Thankfully you all kept me right and I swapped out the grey for this yellow gold colour that we have now. I am formatting this up as a PDF pattern, so if any of you like the look of it, keep an eye out and I'll let you know when that's done. This is one of the two projects that I just happened to be working on last time I found out it was 24 hours of cross-stitch weekend. Thank you again to Marianne for being way more on the ball with those than I am, by the way. That was ages ago now. I think it was maybe even a bit before the wedding, but either way, I was in no fit state to be doing 24 hours of anything that weekend. So I did what I usually do and I just made up my own rules instead. Over the next month-ish, I tracked all of the time that I spent stitching on those two projects in particular, and when it hit 24 hours total, I reported back with my progress. This one, of course, is pretty small, and if memory serves, it had only taken about 4 of the 24 hours. So, what did I spend the other 20 on? Well, I spent 20 whole hours to get autumn stories from this to this. Literally not even a whole page finish. Just 20 hours of solid beige, and I think that goes to show how much work is involved in these full coverage pieces. Anyway, since then I have totally managed to complete that page and I've moved on to the next. As you can hopefully see, we are totally getting some non-beige bits in here now, which feels really good. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy stitching on the beige as well, but I'd not put in any stitches of a more interesting colour since probably about February, so this is a great reward for my patience. As well as 24 hours of cross-stitch, I also nominated this project as one of the 2 that I was going to work on for the 100-day project. This challenge started back in February, and the idea is just that for 100 days straight, you work at least 5 or 10 minutes on your nominated project. People use it to motivate them to draw or write something each day, for example. In my case, I chose this and a knitting project. So the 1st of June was day 100, and suffice to say with everything going on, I'd missed quite a few. I had made good progress, don't get me wrong, but I think out of the 100 days, about 70-something of them had been spent actually working on one of the 2 projects. So again, I'm just going to make my own rules. I've been off this project for a week or so because I have some other major craft priorities on the go at the moment, which we'll talk about in a bit. But the idea is to just keep tracking until we get to 100 days spent on it and just see what kind of progress that translates to, really. Of course it is ultimately meaningless, but it keeps me quiet. Anyway, I just realised I should probably not assume that everybody watching already knows what this is, so Autumn Stories, available from Pain Free Crafts. I'll put the link to this and everything else I mentioned down in the video description. I'm stitching this in the called for DMC colours, 2/1 tent stitch on 28 count ecru even weave fabric, which is also, I believe, DMC brand. Currently estimated completion date, October 6th, 2027. Okay, now I kind of lose track a bit of what I'm posting where these days, but depending where you follow me, you might know that I've been back on the horse with Garden Cat, attempting to finally get a finish. Pattern by Satsuma Street, fabric just some random 14 count white Aida. Unfortunately, what getting back on the horse actually entailed was realising that I'd done a whole section of garden over here, 1 stitch out from where it was supposed to be. And normally, to be honest, I would just bodge it and leave that sort of thing as is, but in this case, there was no real way to make it look good, and I wasn't going to be happy with it. So I spent last Friday picking a significant part of this out. We are back on track now, but yeah, I think I have more to go now than I did this time last week, which that's not ideal. I can't share a photo of this one anywhere without someone commenting on what a beautiful pattern it is, and honestly they are not wrong. Unfortunately though, past me did choose white Ada. I think that must have been all I had at the time and I was impatient to start. Some of the stitches in this are supposed to be white, which obviously do not show up well. I did an experiment, you can see in this yellow flower here and a bit down here, but they're just not showing up. I also tried an off-white further up here, I don't know if you can really tell. If anything, that blends in with the fabric even more. Never fear though, I do have plenty of other ideas to try. I'm just gonna kind of give things a whirl and see what looks best. And once that's sorted out, I think there's one more flower to go over here and we'll be pretty much done. I've left backstitching his little whiskers on for last because I just think that'll be a satisfying conclusion to the project. So if you see this one posted somewhere and the cat actually has whiskers, cause for celebration. Okay, what else have I got here? Yes, okay. A couple of videos back you might have seen that I got my hands on some goodies from Caterpillar Cross Stitch. Among the other bits and pieces, I got an early look at their at the time upcoming Caterpillar Club Box 13, which has since posted out and probably most people are finished stitching and eating and washi taping already, but not me. I also got this Shine Bright kit, so I put up a poll on Instagram and Mastodon to see which I should start stitching first, and by a gnat's whisker on each platform, the vote said to go with the club box pattern. So, Ocean Wonder it is. I've made a small start. Again, I think I posted the little seahorse friend in a couple of places, but he's since been joined by most of some fish, and I've started on the sea turtle, which I'm very excited for because let's face it, we've all been overexcited for sea turtles ever since Finding Nemo came out. I so rarely stitch from a kit these days, so it's honestly been a really nice change of pace. Didn't need to cut the fabric, didn't need to source the floss, it's all just there and sorted out ready for me. Slow progress on this one so far, but again, I just have other crafting priorities at the moment. It's been really nice to just stick a couple of stitches in at a time here and there when I get chance, and it's a nice manageable size design, so even I can't draw it out too long. In theory. Okay, finally then for cross-stitch projects is this little self-drafted pattern of a lemon top. A lemon top is basically just your standard vanilla Mr. Whippy ice cream in a cone, a waffle cone for preference, with a swirl of lemon sorbet on top. Not lemon ice cream, lemon sorbet. I explain this to you because lemon tops are somewhat of a local delicacy and they were always the biggest thing I looked forward to on a beach day out as a kid. So when my birthday rolled around this year, I decided all I wanted was a nice day out at the beach with Dave and a lemon top. We managed the first part fine, but it turned out nowhere was actually selling proper lemon tops, so I had to make do with this lemon and vanilla ice cream swirl. I know, right? Absolute trauma. Anyway, long story short, I decided it was a bit unreasonable to make him drive me further up the coast to get a proper lemon top, so the next best thing is just to stitch one. I'm figuring out the colours as I go, and honestly I probably need to frog some of this and try again with different shades. It's tricksy because a real lemon top has a very vibrant artificial yellow sorbet, and I want to make sure this looks like that and not like pastel yellow lemon ice cream. A very serious endeavour, I'm sure you'll agree, and I'm also sure you'll hear plenty more about this once the colours are sorted, so that's something for us all to look forward to. Moving on then, it is time for knitting and crochet. First, quite quick update is my only active knitting project at the moment, which is my green Justina jumper. I think you've seen this a few times before. And oh look, it's too big to get on the camera, so I guess I'm taking a photo of that and showing you here. I talked about the 100-day project already and the progress it helped me make on Autumn Stories, but this was actually the other project I nominated for that. It's knitted from the bottom of the body up. You start off knitting in the round and then split at the armpits and knit the front and the back in the flat separately. So I think when I first started off on day 1 of the 100, I'd completed the in the round section and I'd just split and done a few rows of the front. I think something like that. Anyway, that gives you an idea of how much progress I've made. The front and back are complete. It has a neckline and it has most of one sleeve. I think that's about 2/3 done. According to the spreadsheet, I've worked on this a total of 38 days, but bear in mind a lot of those were just the minimum 5 to 10 minutes. I do just around here and there. And also, being me, I have had to frog and re-knit quite a few bits as well. I was flying along with this for a while actually, but I've had to put it on the back burner because, I mean, first of all, a big warm woolly jumper is not going to be needed for a while. Summer is well in swing now, and even just looking at this makes me overheat. But also, as you may recall, I have a cruise to prep for. Yep, we're off on a cruise in about 5 weeks' time, and I am extremely excited, but also extremely busy trying to pull together as much of a me-made cruise capsule wardrobe as I possibly can. There's quite a lot of sewing still to do, but also 2 very important crochet projects. What you have to understand here is that I've got a new big floppy black sun hat for cruising purposes, because I don't fare well in direct sunlight. So basically my every wardrobe decision is now being based on how well things go with my new favourite hat, and I'm envisaging a sort of flouncy, summer, gothy witch cruise vibe. Hats can be very inspirational like that. So first up, I like the look of this Cosmos blouse pattern, but you know, make it goth. So I have this sort of rectangle of black crochet netting, essentially, which doesn't look like much. Maybe I'll put it on the dummy and take a photo of it. What you'll immediately notice is this is a lot tighter than in the pattern photos. Obviously, a lot of this is going to be down to blocking, although I am a bit concerned because some of the reviews of the pattern said that the neckline ended up way too small, and that'll be a bit of a shame. It's a free pattern though, and the yarn was like £7, so I guess we'll just say. Assuming it does actually get done in time, that is, because I have to admit this is surprisingly slow going, this one. What is not at all slow going is my other lacy black crochet top. Yes, I'm making 2, because what kind of summer cruise witch only has 1 lacy black crochet top? This one is the succinctly named boat neck top with kimono drop sleeve by Kristen Stein, and as you might know, I've actually made it before. I'm even wearing it in my channel avatar, although admittedly you can't really tell. Sadly, and to this day, inexplicably, I managed to somehow lose it. And so here we are making it for a second time. Luckily, this is probably my all-time favourite pattern to make. It is so fast and is so satisfying, I can't even tell you. It's made out of motifs crocheted separately with either 4, 5 or 6 sides, and then joined together on the last round as you go. Which does sort of result, pre-blocking, in essentially a pile of spaghetti nonsense. But luckily I have been taking progress photos on the dummy as I go, so this should make a lot more sense. So the first time I made this, I did it as intended, and it's a kind of long tunic style. But in taking those progress photos, it kind of got me thinking, what if I leave the 3rd row of motifs off the bottom and I block it a bit less than intended? Could I wear it as more of a cropped style? Because it's looking pretty cool. Answer is, I don't really know. But if I give it a go and it doesn't work out, it's easy enough to take the border off the bottom, add that 3rd row of motifs, and just go back to how it's supposed to be. So I'll let you know. Of course, if I'd known I was going to try that from the start, I probably would have used a smaller hook, but you live and learn. And if it doesn't work, I enjoy this enough that I might actually make a second, or I guess it would be a 3rd one, with the smaller hook, intending cropped version from the start. I don't know, I'm just waffling now. I'm going to put this down. Alright, sewing time. Obviously, the headline project here should have been the wedding dress, but if you've somehow managed to avoid all mention of this, then all you need to know is it was a total fail. And if you want any more detail, I put up a video last week telling you all about it. One thing I maybe didn't get across in last week's video though was how good this has been for my sewing. I mean, I have failed totally and utterly at not only a big important project, but a big important project that people all over the internet knew I was working on. Nothing could ever fail as hard as that ever again. I'm free! Basically what I'm saying is that now my worst sewing fear has already come to pass, I'm filled with a newfound confidence. I jumped straight from wedding mode into Eurovision mode, learning all of the songs and prepping for our big trip to Liverpool. And while shopping for something entirely unrelated, I just happened across this fabric on eBay and I knew I definitely needed to make myself a Eurovision dress. I grabbed that same pattern I'd used to make my Christmas dress, a bit of leftover red scrap fabric from said Christmas dress, and I whipped this baby up in one afternoon and with literally no drama at all. Just like a normal sewing person who is confident at sewing. Fun story, not only did I get stopped around the arena for compliments, but also I'd posted about this project on Mastodon the night before on the Eurovision hashtag, and I got talking to someone who said she was going to the same show as us. Obviously I didn't think anything more of it, Liverpool is a big place, the arena is a big place, so imagine my surprise when the woman sitting literally right in front of us turns around and says, "Michelle? What are the chances? Seriously?" So yeah, I've marked the day down in my calendar as the first time I ever got recognised in public by someone I'd met on social media. I'm basically a celebrity now. I know we're getting off topic here, but oh my god, Eurovision was so good. When I was telling people we got tickets, they would look so excited for me, and then I would go on to explain how it was tickets for the dress rehearsal of the second semi-final, and slowly but surely their face would morph into an expression of disappointment and slight pity. But no, it was perfect! The show was amazing, the presenters were properly into it even though it wasn't even real. We got the full halftime show and everything. And then we got to enjoy the televised version on the big screen in the Eurovillage, which just turned into one big dance party. A very drunk man was impressed and confused by my knowledge of all of the words to all of the songs, and honestly, I've never been prouder. Definitely a contender for best day of my life. Then I moved on to cruise sewing, and I picked up these sheets. Red and purple being two of the colours allowed by my increasingly lax but still quite useful wardrobe rules. I think one of these is a single and one is a double, I can't remember which way round it goes, and honestly I've got no idea what I'm going to try and make out of them. But I've still got a month to go and I'm going to try and make something. One other thing I bought was a quilt cover with a pattern of big green leaves on one side and a plain lighter green on the other. This isn't something I would normally have gravitated to, but it did sort of scream cruise. Again, on Mastodon, I'd recently seen someone post a lovely skirt they made, and they were kind enough to enable me with the name of the shop, which was NH Designs on Etsy. I may have picked up some patterns that I couldn't really afford, and that were definitely designed for someone 20 years younger than me. So far, I've managed to make most of a skirt, which still needs hemming, but I'm waiting until I've got the whole outfit together to decide on the final length there. It involved my second ever attempt at gathering, which you may have heard me complain about on Instagram because it was tedious as heck, but I got some good advice from the sewing community on Lemmy, and I'm now confident I can do that much better next time, at the very least. I've talked before about having weird body proportions. I have very, very wide hips, which according to the internet means that I should always wear high-waisted pants and skirts and crop tops. But I also have a very, very short waist, which according to the internet means I should never wear high-waisted pants and skirts or crop tops. So, clearly, screw that nonsense. I like flouncy skirts, high-waisted is more comfy, and I also like the look of thick waistbands, even if they do kind of end up hitting just below my boobs. Whatevs. The original pattern for this skirt didn't have pockets, but that wasn't going to stand, so I just chucked some in. And I knew the straight rectangular waistband was never going to work. There's literally a 3-inch difference in circumference between where the top of this band sits and the bottom, because my hips are just so wide and start so far up. So I self-drafted a curved waistband pattern piece and I slapped that on instead. See what I mean about newfound confidence? I'm also making a reversible bralette style top out of the remains of the bedding. Currently it's just the booby holder section while I figure out if I need to redraft the waist bit of this as well. How cruisy is this outfit gonna be though? Okay, I think that might be it craft-wise. But you'll notice I've mentioned Mastodon a few times today and I just want to very briefly touch on why that is. See, for me, social media has always been less of a mindless scrolling activity and more of a chance to actually meet people and talk to them about things we share in common. I genuinely enjoy talking to people about their pretty craft projects, and that's what Instagram was for a long time. However, once they started really pushing reels and filling my feed with people that I'd never even met, it kind of lost a lot of that appeal and I've struggled to get it back. I've also never really been much of a phone person, so having conversations and notifications tied to a mobile app, or admittedly there is a website but they obviously don't want you to use it, is not ideal for someone like me. I find that I miss a lot of stuff people are trying to send me just because I'm not looking at my phone all that often. Meanwhile, I never really got the point of Twitter. It always seemed like just a load of angry people shouting into the void. But last year when it started to implode and people were leaving for Mastodon, I thought, why not give that a go, just see what it's about? For science. Well, it is so lovely there. I've been settled on an arts and crafts based instance since back in November, so my local feed is just full of pretty projects. I can dip in and comment on things in the various hashtag feeds I follow, and it moves at a manageable pace because there's just not the millions of people posting every second that you get on these big platforms. It's really nice to actually get to know people and have conversations instead of just being limited to posting photos, you know? There are even strict cultural expectations around things like properly using content warnings, adding alt text to your images, just generally being inclusive where you can. I'm not necessarily recommending Mastodon to people who are currently happy on Facebook, Instagram, whatever it may be. But if you're already on there, or you've been feeling a little bit restless on the big platforms and you want to see what else is out there, please do come and say hello. I will leave my profile link down in the description. Down with the centralized internet! Fediverse forever! Right, my camera battery is going and I don't know how long this video was, so I'm just gonna say I'll be back soon with some more crafty nonsense, so in the meantime, have a brilliant rest of your day and keep making cool stuff.